The 49ers had a lot of things unravel in their week 4 loss to the Jags. Now they must put it behind them on a short week against the Rams on Thursday. But new injury updates may make it an interesting week of preparation for the 49ers. We'll discuss that and more on today's 49K Pod.
You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Monday, September 29th, and thank you for being here, at least live, because you could be anywhere in the world, including Monday Night Football, watching the Dolphins and the Jets go at it. Let's be honest, nobody wants to watch that, which is why you're here. But thank you for being here. Weston, thank you as well. How you doing?
I'm good, Steph. I mean,
all things considered,
and we'll get into it at length, I'm sure. But hey, we're still 3-1, still sitting at the top of your division. Didn't know if I felt like at the beginning of the season we'd even be here after 4 weeks of football. So, all things considered, it's a Monday. Good news is for us 49er fans, short week till we get to watch our 49ers again. Maybe wipe some of the taste out of our mouth. I'm not too optimistic about that, but there is that opportunity on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm like, is it a good thing that it's a short week? On one hand, you could put this loss behind you rather quickly. You move forward. But with this team, as always, there's injuries that we got to talk about. And I guess that's a decent place to start. I mean, since you mentioned it, Weston. So today the 49ers didn't actually practice. And so we do actually, let me go back one page on the slide. So the post week 4 injuries that we're tracking right now. Well, Kyle Shanahan did speak with the media today. He did mention that Brock Purdy with his toe injury, he felt toe soreness Sunday night after the game. And so that's something that the 49ers are going to be monitoring throughout the week. That kind of raises some alarm bells a little bit. Again, it's a short week. You don't feel great about that, but we'll probably know a little more later in the week on Brock. And we'll talk about this, but he also just didn't really look 100% to me and most of us for Sunday's game. So yeah, that could be something that is relevant for Thursday. Then he got Ricky Pearsall with the knee injury. Weston, you remember, last week he had some knee soreness, which wasn't a big issue. He played in this game. And then now it's the other knee, Weston. Yeah. The other knee. And the words that Kyle Shanahan used, he said minor PCL. So possibly a PCL sprain for Pearsall. They're still evaluating there. And rumors say that it's a deep bone contusion as well for Pearsall. So that puts his status for Thursday in doubt as well. Juwan Jennings, who, took a bit of a hit to the ribs in the 2-point conversion that he had in that game. He missed some snaps, but did return to the game. The 49ers still evaluating him. No update. The fact that he returned, usually that's like a decent sign, but also after the game things can swell up, the adrenaline wears off. So we'll see how Juwan Jennings is feeling tomorrow, I guess. And then Renardo Green, who was out on Sunday's game, Kyle Shanahan did say we'll see how he feels throughout the week, but again, on a short week makes it a little dicey. CJ West, who missed this game with the broken thumb, no update on him, and as well as like Mac Jones, no real update on him either. Malik Mustafa, Kyle Shanahan did provide an update on him. He said that the hope is that he could start practicing after week 6. And, sorry, Weston, I'm like babbling here.
No.
One last thing. So on a short week, Monday is the day that 49ers don't practice on Monday, but they have a projected practice report, right? Like if they did practice, this is what would have happened kind of thing. So the players that they had listed as would not have practiced: Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, Jordan Watkins, Robert Beal Jr., Yetur Gross-Matos, and CJ West. Some of those aren't surprises because they were on the list of names we just rattled through there. And then on the players that would have been limited if the 49ers had practiced today, they listed Mykel Williams, D. Winters with a knee injury, and Renardo Green with neck. Do want to note Mykel Williams now with the oblique injury. He had a wrist injury last week, played in this game. Now there's an oblique injury popping up for him, so something to keep an eye on this week. The one thing I want to mention here is where we bring it back. Mac Jones listed as a would have been full participant. So that makes things interesting given what we know now about Brock Purdy, that he's dealing with some, extra soreness on that toe. Do we see Mac Jones possibly play in Thursday night's game? It's possible.
It's possible. Look, I mean, the news just keeps getting worse on the injury front, right? Like there's no improvement. So that's why I say, like, while Thursday night can prove to be its own challenge, getting enough people suited up to play for this game, let alone the outcome of the game at this point, probably coming at an ideal time, right? Because then you can feel confident you get a mini bye, essentially, right? And we know there should be reinforcements to follow that. So maybe this short week, while doesn't necessarily feel like it aligns well in the win-loss column, probably aligns pretty well in the recovery timeline that this team would need coming out of this. But I am most intrigued on this Purdy, Mac Jones, and I know we'll talk about this in a little bit. Like, would the result look different if Mac Jones played this week because Purdy was like banged up? We'll debate that ad nauseum, I'm sure. But I feel like this is like, could this be like, who do the Rams have plenty of tape on? Brock Purdy, right? Like, and plenty of experience with. Who do they have limited tape on? Mac Jones. Not that they can't go get it, but that, I mean, like McVay has seen with his own eyes, right? Like twice a year, has not had a ton of success against Brock Purdy-led San Francisco. Like, maybe that little wrinkle is enough to throw him off the game, and it is a real possibility because what I do know from watching this game is and what I'm reminded of is probably the better word, is that the toe is a really funny injury. What I would say is it looked like it really affected Brock planting and throwing, but it looked like it had no effect on Brock's mobility in the pocket, out of the pocket, on the go. To me, like, I felt like he was still able to do some things, buy some time, get creative, like off script a little bit, where it wasn't as obvious as like Mac Jones' knee at the end of week 3, right? Where like the guy could barely get in and out of the huddle and was just like gutting it out through the game. But I think it was very obvious, especially just like the way that he was sailing some of the throws. To me, that means you're not people. Professional athletes will tell you all the time, their feet are their most valuable possession, right? Like them dogs control everything that you do. And it just was like evident he couldn't grip, right? Like it was just like he couldn't grip it and rip it, which means the strength's not there in the toe. So what do? Could he probably play the rest of the year? Yeah. But is he going to play to his ability? Like probably not. You know what I mean? Like, so it's almost like, what else do you do, Steph, besides like chuckle a little bit, because you every week you're like, please just like, and then you in mid-game, you watch Pearsall go down. You watched it happen.
Yeah.
You watch Jennings. I mean, Mark Sanchez, bless him, described this perfectly in the Gamecast of like, that's the old boxer's punch. And as somebody who used to spar and throw some hands back in my heyday, like that was a quintessential rabbit punch to an exposed kidney. I'm shocked he even came back out on the football field, let alone like wasn't taken off with like a ruptured spleen with the way that he got hit, fully extended. So the hits just keep on coming. Like this is nothing like testing the resiliency of a football team.
Indeed. And like, let's just dive a little deeper into this Brock Purdy thing now, because I think what I want to do in today's show is just talk about, well, whose fault is it?
Yeah.
Is it fit? Because, a lot of people are saying, Brock Purdy, he's the one to blame. Is he the only thing to blame? I don't think he is, right?
No.
I think at the end of this discussion, we'll have a percentage, for each thing that contributed to this loss. But I think it's pretty clear a lot of things did. Brock Purdy, I think, holds the brunt of it. I mean, 4 turnovers in the game, and 3 of them come from, the quarterback. Usually it's not going to reflect very well on him. So 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and the 1 fumble that essentially helped, seal this game. So I want to talk about the turnovers really quick because that's now 20 interceptions in Purdy's last 19 regular season starts. I know we look at last year and we say that's a very forgettable season for Brock Purdy. He just wasn't himself. But what if that is him? Like, I don't want to think that, right? At the same time, I'm like, I can't also say that I don't know that it's not, because it's now a pretty large sample size that now spans, a little over a season now. And so I'm getting a little nervous about, Brock Purdy. And again, I think context is important. The context is that you are missing some receiver. Like, you don't have George Kittle, who's a security blanket out there. You have Brock Purdy playing on a bad toe. And it was obvious, him sailing those passes high were the biggest clue we had. I actually didn't think that his mobility was really there. I think he scrambled only once, where I think he would have scrambled and escaped the pocket several other times, if he wasn't dealing with that toe. So yeah, I think he definitely was limited, but even still, I mean, I just have some worries about, I think we've seen the best of Brock, and I just kind of wonder if those days are behind us, right? Like, are we going to get those back? Are we going to get those kind of performances again? Does everything really have to be perfect for him to be successful? That was the question everyone had after his 2023 season, right? So I don't want to get too deep into that because we could be here forever. But, I'm feeling nervy about it. On Sunday, 22 of 38, 308 yards. He was 10 for 13 for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns when the ball came out in under 2.5 seconds. When the ball was thrown 2.5 seconds or later, meaning, he had ample time to throw, he was 12 of 25 for 180 yards and 2 interceptions. So it's kind of funny, right? When he was getting the ball out quickly, he was actually better. When he was holding on to it, that's when mistakes happen. And he was pressured on 13 of his dropbacks, going 4 of 12 for 75 yards with an interception and a fumble when pressured. And I want to point this out too. His time to throw, because I know where people are going to go. His time to throw was a little over 3 seconds. It was about 3 seconds, which I think is ample time to get the ball out. But yeah, like, so Weston, chime in on Brock and just how are you feeling about him just as a whole, and then also, I guess, within the context of this one game.
Yeah. So you said it perfectly that, like, context is important. Here's why I say that, because, Steph, we've been doing this show together every Monday for how long now? And it took me a long while to get on the Brock bandwagon. I was very skeptical at first, and then the kid played super, super well. So we know what he's capable of. We've seen that, right? I think if you just logged into social media this morning, didn't watch the game, and looked at the StatCom, you would immediately like, Brock lost that football game. And I don't think that's a fair representation of what transpired. Context. Just missed 2 weeks coming back. A lot of unknown around how the injury would linger when it comes to playing. He has a cast around him. Forget who's not there. Let's just talk about who is there, right? Like, Ricky Pearsall can't finish the game. Jawan Jennings, his first action coming back, right? Like, they haven't had time to sync up through the season, right, and get that in-season rhythm. Kendrick Bourne, when has he thrown a pass to Kendrick Bourne? The answer is he hasn't. Demarcus Robinson, fresh off of suspension. So there's a lot of just unknowns out there. And I think that reared itself at the end of the game when you just saw confusion in the playbook. People didn't know where to be. I'm not giving Brock an excuse. I don't think he's absolved of blame. Like, I think he contributed to this loss as much as many other folks. What I think is being blown out of, like, context is is Brock not that guy, right? Like, is he incapable of doing special things that we've seen him do before? And I think you have to look at it from the lens of like, you can't sit here and say bad interception, the one that I'm not saying it was a great throw, and I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey's at fault, right? Like, bad interception where like a game of centimeters, if that's a centimeter lower, maybe Christian McCaffrey makes that play and it's a moot point, right? Like, people have been asking for a quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers that is a little bit more of a gunslinger, right? Like a little bit more of trusts his instincts and lets it rip. And Brock's still doing that, even not confident with his injury. And yes, he had some balls sail on him. Let's call it rust. Let's call it whatever you want. We've seen him make that throw, right? We've seen him make those throws. It's not like we've never seen those throws completed. We've seen them look better. I think there's just too much that factors into it to say in context of this game that Brock is at fault. Don't know if that's true. Look, the ball, it was the right read to Christian McCaffrey. He made a play, right? Scrambling out to his right, came back across the field. Unlucky on all accounts, right? Like the Luke Farrell turnover, unlucky, right? Like I think where I am most pressure on Brock that I don't love is I don't buy, like, I don't care if that final interception was tipped or not. That was not going to wherever he intended it to go to. Yes. Like, that was not happening, period, point blank. Like, if he was trying to go short to McCaffrey in the check down, he was sailing it, right? Like, if he was trying to go the next layer, it was way off. And a little deflection of a pinky. I know these are big, giant men, is not affecting the trajectory. I think where I'm at is like, we have seen Brock play better. The question now becomes, is you take the back half of last season compiled with what you've seen so far, there is evidence mounting that, like, is he a $260 million guy, right? That's what it's worth. But to those people, Steph, because there are those people out there right now that are so thrilled to be right that they told you that Brock, like, isn't the guy. Like, they're thrilled, be honest.
Of course.
But here's my point. What were the options? Like, literally, still nobody has given you an option. Nobody's given you a better plan or a better path. Don't tell me Mac Jones. Let's not take away from the fact that that's a really good defense that through 4 weeks has averaged over 3 turnovers or takeaways a game through 4 weeks. Like, they're trending in, like,
for real.
Yeah, like, you have to give credit where credit is due. They were prepared to pounce on opportunities. They knew where the opportunities were be, and the defense they sit in creates those. Like, deflected passes, they're going to fall right in your lap. They're sitting in the zone. Nobody's running man. Nobody's backs to the ball. Everybody's watching the ball the entire time. So there's plenty of blame to go around. What I need to say is, like, hey, we saw a pretty good Brock week 1 against Seattle on the road, right? Nobody's going to contest that. Then we didn't see Brock for 2 weeks. And now you're seeing him coming off the toe injury. Like, where we still sit in this typical 49er quarterback limbo. You can't call it in either direction.
It's funny. It's so funny. Like, you already had people thinking, oh, like, Mac Jones looks so good in those previous 2 games, like he should start, which, by the way, like, I think he would have started one more game if he was healthier. Yeah. If he was healthier than Brock, he would definitely be starting the game. I think it was a situation where Brock just happened to be the healthier of the 2 and clearly not 100% yet, but neither of them were. So they kind of just had to roll with Brock. But yeah, I think Mac would have started if he could have. So yeah, that kind of makes week 4 interesting, which feels like the most 49er thing ever. It's like, oh, here's a quarterback you're kind of intrigued by, and not everyone, right? But, you know, some of us are, and it's like, oh, well, the starting quarterback gets hurt, and now this guy has an opportunity to show you what he has. I mean, we already saw that in the 2 games that he played, but for Brock to kind of, I don't want to say re-aggravate, I don't know if that's the right word, but now he's dealing with soreness right on that toe again. I don't know. It just feels like the script writers stop giving us the same plot, okay? Like, we've seen this story too many
I
times.
just see Super Bowl at the end of all of this. I'm like, you wouldn't make us go through it if there wasn't light at the end of this tunnel, right? Like, that's a rare page for me to turn, Steph, because I'm normally the negative Nancy of the group when it comes to these things. I just think this loss is so much. Look, there was moments in this game where you thought it was done, and they still battled. They were still resilient. They still had an opportunity to win the football game. Unlucky in unlucky moments. There are other things that I can point to that are just egregious that I would argue are bigger benefactors to the loss than Brock's play, if I'm being honest.
The Jags did want to give this game away. they
For
wanted.
Sure they did.
They're a team that's like dancing with being pretty bad, but their defense is, as you mentioned, impressive. So, Weston, I have a list of things that I want to talk about this game, but you said like there's some egregious things. What's the next one for you?
It's the offensive line. It's the play of the offensive line, specifically our all-world Hall of Fame left tackle that has just not felt like he's really showed up yet this season. I'm not blaming the players. I'm blaming the cohesive unit, right? Like you got young guys in Colby and Pooney. Like, Pooney is obvious has regressed since last year. I think Colby's got his better football is definitely ahead of him than what he's playing right now, but he's being thrusted into this moment as like a young guy. But they're just collectively not on the same page. And then, what does that affect? The run game. Got it. Now what does the commentary become? Christian McCaffrey is slow and old and blah, blah, blah. It's like, really? He just doesn't even have a lane. Like, he literally doesn't have lanes to cut through and explode through. And then you want to fault a quarterback who is in uncharted territory. We've never asked Brock Purdy to throw the football 40 times in a game, right? Like, that's never had to be a thing. Yeah. But if you want more comfortable fronts, you have to threaten with throwing the ball on first and second down. But if you take players out of it, if you take the run game out of Kyle Shanahan's offense, you might as well just take 3 knees and punt. Like, because that's what he does. That's what they do. Like, they run the football well. Now, I'm not naive. George Kittle being out is a significant piece of this running game being stalled. Like, we know what he does in the pass game. We've always known what he does in the run game, but now you're seeing it firsthand. And this eliminates the outside zone scheme. This eliminates a lot of things that Kyle wants to do because George was so good. When you had Trent Williams moving to his left, when you had Kittle moving to his left, and then Juice on the outside of that, and those 3 guys getting up to the multiple layers, and then Jennings and Ayuk out there blocking, big things happened in the run game, and we just haven't seen those things. So I would go offensive line, and I would still want to take this time to point out that apparently it doesn't matter who the special teams coordinator is. They can't do the job in San Francisco.
One thing at a time. We'll get there. We'll get there. Don't you worry. On the offensive line, I think the best way to describe them is just inconsistent. I don't want to come here and say that they've been bad because I truly don't believe that. If you look at Brock Purdy's time to throw, and even when Mac was a quarterback who doesn't move from the pocket, his time to throw was acceptable as well. And in the 2 games that Brock Purdy has played, his average time to throw is, like I said, 3.04 seconds. That's 5th highest in the league. Generally, if your offensive line is giving you that much time to throw, you should be able to operate within that, right? So there's something else going on here. It's not all on the offensive line, but again, context is important. They definitely have not been consistent. I mean, in this game on Sunday, they gave up 16 pressures. Colby, 5 pressures. I mean, we talked about it. He's definitely has his work cut out for them. The game's moving at a high speed for him. This Jags defensive line, there are no slouches either.
No, they're not.
Trent Williams, I think, is the one that we're all kind of like somewhat surprised by. 4 pressures in this game. Was it the Jags defensive end, is it Trayvon Walker? He exited this game pretty early,
Yes,
but
he did. Yes, he
he
did.
did. Trent had some trouble with him early as well. McKivitz and Pooney had 2 pressures that they gave up each. So yeah, I mean, and then say what you want about Brendel too. Like you see
Yeah.
some things from him once in a while. So like that's all to say. I've seen misses from everybody on this line at one point or another, both in the pass game and in the run game. The run game has been absolutely atrocious, and that's the thing that to me maybe is the most egregious of all, because it's something that we just haven't seen with this offense before.
Yeah.
And so now you're asking your offense to operate in, I don't know, conditions they really haven't had to before, at least not like this. And it just feels like defenses are attacking the 49ers in a specific way. And then also, you're not seeing this run blocking be very good. 3.3 yards per rush. The 49ers are averaging right now. That is 31st in the league through the first 4 weeks of the season. Christian McCaffrey averaged 2.9 yards per carry in Sunday's game, 25% success rate for CMC on the ground on Sunday. That's not good, by the way. 25%.
Oh.
It sounds like it might be positive. No, it's not. So this has just been absolutely terrible for the 49ers. No rushing touchdowns this season. I mean, that is so weird to say for this team. And I think it's having trickling effects to other things. And I think we kind of pointed to that in the first 3 games as like, hey, this is great. We're winning games, but like that right there is not sustainable. Like they better fix that, especially after Nick Bosa went down. You're just like, hey, like the offense is going to have to help this defense out a little bit. You're going to have to score some more points. Well, things aren't working out in the red zone either. And you remember that was a big problem for them last year as well. Well, this year that problem has followed them. They're tied for 5th worst in red zone efficiency, 42.9%, 4th worst in goal to go situations, and their touchdown efficiency with that is 37.5%. Red zone conversion, they're 27th in the league. So it's been bad. It's been bad for them. And again, I think the run game has a trickling effect to the red zone. George Kittle not being there, I think, has an effect on both of these things directly. And so it's just been tough sledding. 49ers should have drafted Jackson Haas, who's now blocking his butt off with the Bills. You'll hear his name if you ever watch a Bills game. They're saying his name in the broadcast as a rookie, as a blocker. Like that's a good thing. Anyway, I'll get off of my draft crush, but man, I mean, didn't they tell us that Luke Farrell was going to be like such a good blocking tight end? I mean, I don't know. I don't have answers right now for the 49ers run game, but with so many things kind of being the issue there, like small things, right? Like we kind of pointed to them. It's not just one person, it's not just CMC. It's not just one person on the offensive line. Like that makes me kind of worry even more. Cause like you kind of have to, those groups need to come together and that's not going to be a 1 week thing, so that's my concern on the offense, and it doesn't help Brock Purdy out. Like, yeah, if Brock Purdy needs conditions to be easier for him or just like closer to perfect, like they were in the 2023 season, then this run game right now is not helping him at all. And as you mentioned, like nearly 40 passes in a game, that's just not where Brock Purdy is going to excel. I think we know that.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's worrisome. We've talked about it all the time about not addressing like the O-line. I think, which is contributing to red zone inefficiency. What I did like coming out of that game was, a lot of this is going to come up to Kyle, like masking the deficiencies with scheme, with play calling, etc. And he found a little creativity on the little shovel pass that gets McCaffrey in. Like that's what you got to figure out, right? Like you got to figure out, look, it's really hard to score in the red zone. Like it's actually really hard, right? You have 22 bodies and it gets more difficult as you get closer to the line and to the goal line. and we're not really built for the tush push or the quarterback sneak. We don't have a 6'6" Trevor Lawrence who's 260 pounds who can just, lean forward, etc. I think. Look, I'm really nervous because they're in these games. They're trying to win these games, i.e. Christian McCaffrey's getting a ton of work. I think the run game needs to look a little different. And it needs to look a little different in the form of more touches for Brian Robinson, more touches for Isaac Guerrero. You're suiting Guerrero up.
Yeah.
You're suiting him up. Like, maybe he finds a crease and has home run speed and can go a little bit. Brian Robinson is not an outside zone scheme guy, right? Like, he's a little bit more between the tackles with some juice. So you're going to have to figure out ways to get the balls in these hands. And look, the outside zone run game is really hard to execute and draw up. So when they hit home runs, they hit home runs.
Yeah.
But they also get 6 and 7 yard losses pretty regularly, right? When it takes one player to blow it up. You want to take the pressure off the run game a little bit, you have to force the issue between the tackles. You have to force the issue. And that's, to me, why you brought Brian Robinson here, right? Like,
yeah, I think so.
Let the second-year player, sorry, Isaac Guerrero, but if you get nicked up in the middle of the games, we ask you to go between the tackles. It's better than losing Christian McCaffrey, right? Like, so you need to take a few of these stumps, and then it's going to become creativity, or else you are going to see Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, whoever it is, ball's going to be in the air 35 times a game.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's the way we're built.
Definitely not, and I don't think that's the way that Kyle Shanahan,
he doesn't want
wants.
to do that.
He doesn't want to, and Kyle was actually asked about the run game after the game on Sunday. And so I wanted to play this clip because he did provide some good insight on what's going on here.
Would have done better today because you get heavy two-shell defenses. You can't get a big explosive run. Usually comes down to third down, and that's what we struggled at the week before.
Well,
running game week after week that's not really breaking through.
Just not enough explosives, really. I mean, we're getting extremely heavy two-shell defenses, and I would have thought we would have done better today because you get heavy two-shell defenses. You can't get a big explosive run. Usually comes down to third down, and that's what we struggled at the week before. But I thought we did real well on third down today. Which should have kept us out there and kept us going. That's what's so frustrating with the turnovers that we had.
Yeah, so again, like
killer stuff. Besides everything, he's not wrong. I mean, I actually do love listening to Kyle speak because when you get a real answer from him, you get like true football insight.
Yeah.
But it's rare that he gives you a full answer because he's the best kind of arrogant, in my opinion. But in any case, he's not wrong. Like, they moved the ball. And they did it well. And, like, I know we're like, 3 yards, 3.5 yards a clip. Well, that's a first down, right? 3 times in a row, that's a first down. That's what you want from your run game. So it's not as bad as we want to call it out. It's no explosives. And then when they would move the ball, the turnover. If you think about those turnovers, they were while they were moving the ball. I mean, the Luke Farrell one looms large. Like, they were really moving the ball on that drive, and then boom, right? And those are drive killers. And I know I'm skipping ahead, but we had those opportunities too on defense. Difference was Jaguars capitalized. We did not.
Exactly. Which I knew that this game was going to come down to that because if you look at the Jags the previous 3 weeks, they were also susceptible to making mistakes. One of the most penalized teams. They had a ton of penalties in this game. That's like one of the things that I think helped the 49ers quite a bit, especially in like their last scoring drive that they had. But in any case, it was going to come down to which team could capitalize. Well, right out the gate, the Jags capitalized them on the 49ers turnovers. And on the other hand, 49ers defense didn't have any turnovers. They're still waiting for their first interception of the season. Fred Warner, he keeps getting this close. He's so close. He's going to get one, but it's like, my goodness, get that guy on the jugs machine, please. Yep. Kendrick Bourne, get him on the jugs machine too while we're at it. But on the topic of turnovers, tied for the 49ers offense, tied with for most turnovers with 8. Their turnover margin average per game is negative 1.3. That is 28th in the NFL. Like, if you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, you're gonna find it really hard to win football games. And again, like you're playing against a team where those things mattered, right?
Yep.
In the grand scheme of things, it mattered. And then also like on drops, right? Like Kendrick Bourne, 3 drops. You talked about the fact that obviously Brock, it looked very clear like Kendrick Bourne had never caught a pass from Brock Purdy before. Not literally. I'm sure they have a few times in this week, but like clearly not enough to have any chemistry. Like at least for the first drop, Bourne even looked surprised by like the pass. Like, oh my God, like what? How did I drop that? That was weird. 11.1% drop rate against the Jaguars for the 49ers. That was 4th worst by any team this season. And so you look at that, you look at turnovers, and again, like you're just going to keep finding it really hard to win games that way. By the way, the Kendrick Bourne drop out of those 3 that I think felt the worst, it definitely like was a big momentum swing. It was like a 3rd and 9, I believe. And then the 49ers punt. And that's the one that the Jags get the punt return touchdown on, 87 yards. The first one they've allowed since 2017. So that's a good segue to special teams and what blame they could take in all of this as well. Special teams has been a huge issue for the 49ers for as long as I can remember, Weston, but new special teams coordinator, same problems.
You know, I'm at the point, Steph, with special teams, just keep firing them. Because apparently they don't matter. Apparently they don't need time to acclimate to just – and it's not just the punt return, Steph. It's not. And I know Eddie Pinheiro has been a revelation in a couple weeks over Jake Moody, so I'm not even going there. It is coverage on the special teams. It is punt coverage. It is kickoff coverage. It is kickoff return. It is all bad. I don't even want to look at the stats, but I guarantee take turnovers out of it. Just kickoff and punts, I would bet that we give up the league's worst average starting position, you know, for the opponent. And then vice versa, we have the league's worst starting position after kickoffs. Like I just can't I don't have an explanation. I don't have an understanding for it. But like when we kick, I'm at the point, just kick the ball in the end zone. Let them take it from the 35 every time.
Just let your defense do the rest, because clearly you can't be trusted to do anything right. Yeah, that's how we feel about the special teams right now in the coverage units. They also allowed a 54-yard kickoff return in this one too, in addition to the punt return touchdown. 26 yards allowed per punt return. That's what the 49ers are averaging.
Punt return, that is disgusting. That is terrible.
26 yards allowed. That's 31st in the league, by the way. So, and yeah, if you look at like the special teams EPA numbers, I'm pretty sure the 49ers are ranked last. At least before this game, they were. So I can't imagine that's changed much. It has improved. It definitely has not. So yeah, that continues to be an issue, and it just felt like, Weston, like every time where this team was starting to show some life, something else just shot them in the foot. Yeah. You know, like they just couldn't get out of their own way, which is not what we were saying about them in the previous, 3 games.
No, what I would say that there are similarities in this game versus the 3 games is they didn't quit, right? Like they didn't quit. They still made this a game. There was still opportunity to go win this game, which means some things were done right. You know what I mean? But like, I think I don't want to take any credit away from the Jaguars because I thought defensively, they were just they outcoached Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, right? Or their players definitively outplayed, our offense. So I don't want to take any credit for that or take any credit away from that. I just feel like what's the word that I want to use? We just weren't up to the challenge. And to your point, like we were our own worst enemy is basically what I want to say, right? Like we lost the game versus being beaten in my opinion. And I don't like to say that because it feels like I'm making excuses for the team and saying there's a brighter avenue, but that's what it felt like. It felt like every moment they grabbed the momentum back, something backbreaking happened within the next 3 plays,
Yeah, I know. It was like so soon after.
Yeah.
You're just like, give me a break.
Yeah.
We haven't talked too much about the defense, and that's because, like, honestly, I don't feel like they have that big of a hand in this loss. I think they were behind the 8 ball from the get-go with the early turnovers, which put them in bad spots to begin with. You're asking a lot from your defense, putting them in those positions when this is their first full game without Nick Bosa, and still, especially in the second half, I felt like the defense did put them in positions to get something going. Like, they were giving the ball back to the offense. What was it? Like, there was a stat that they showed on the broadcast that after the half, I think until a little later in the game, of course, like in the fourth, the 49ers defense forced several punts in the second half. So I won't really listen to a serious argument that the defense is to blame for this one. But there is something that I think we figured would be predictable in this game.
Yeah.
That they were going to have a hard time getting any pass rush. And that happened. 0 sacks, 0 QB hits on Trevor Lawrence. That's the first time the 49ers have accomplished that since 2015. Huff only 2 pressures. Michael Williams and Samo 1 pressure each. Trevor Lawrence was pressured on a league low 18.8% of his dropbacks. He faced pressure on just 4 of his 31 dropbacks. So, obviously that's not going to get it done. The 49ers, even when they were blitzing, they blitzed 6 times, and that was their lowest rate of the season, which was a little surprising, just given that you figure you'd need some extra juice to get some pressure. But Lawrence was still good even when they did blitz. He was 5 of 6, 35 yards and a touchdown. So not ideal for the 49ers defensive line. We knew it would take some time for Saleh to figure that out.
Yeah, I listen, he's still adjusting to life without Nick Bosa. Like, it is that simple.
We all are.
It's funny because I have the same set jerseys that I bring downstairs out of my little man room here, and I hang them like in one of the walkways to go through, and Bosa's one of them because that was what my wife, and now we don't touch Bosa. He just hangs in the rafters, and like you stare at and you're like, well, I wish one of us had that on. Steph, my household, we're just ridiculous. But in any case, like, Saleh's still figuring out life without Nick Bosa, definitively going to take time and creativity. But I think there's some other things that you mentioned, like a season low, like blitz rate and things of that nature. Let's not talk about how not having Renardo Green out there takes away some things. Now you have to compensate for coverage with Darrell Luter because that's just a liability out there at corner right now.
Fine. I thought he did fine.
He's a liability out there. I'm just telling you, he's a liability. And I'm telling you,
not on Sunday, but
coverage, he was accounted for. I'll tell you that much, right? Like, somebody sat there. I think that's part of the reason why you didn't see D Winters like have such an impact on this game, is because I think he was out covering the flat more than he was giving Luter underneath help so he couldn't get beat over the top. All of that matters, right? Like, and because you're not sending D with pressure, and then you can't send Fred with pressure. They were reluctant in coverage to send Upton, which we saw a little wrinkle of like throughout the first few weeks. So I think, again, Robert Saleh is still figuring out life with Nick Bosa, and I know it didn't show up in the stat column from a sack and pressure perspective, but you mentioned earlier, I would say that anybody who's trying to have a serious conversation with you about how the defense contributes to this loss is actually not having a serious conversation. Period, point blank. Like, I thought, if anything, given the circumstances and the positions that they were faced with throughout this game that were inflicted by the offense, even inflicted by the referees, where apparently they just decided that we weren't accepting penalties like in logical states.
Yeah,
I thought the defense played lights. I thought the defense played phenomenal given the circumstances. Like, phenomenal outside of not getting pressure, but minus one of the league's best pass rushers who frees up so much more opportunities. What we did see is life is going to get harder for Michael Williams without Nick Bosa there. Life is going to get harder for Bryce Huff without Nick Bosa there. That's just the reality of it. But where do you find the pickup? And I just don't think they had the tools out on the field. Even that just Bernardo Green piece missing, you feel a lot more confident leaving those two out there on an island where you can send pressure, But I thought the defense was stout. No pun intended. I thought Upton Stout is just like progressing right before our eyes and making mistakes, but making them at 1,000 miles an hour and flying around the football field with just reckless abandon. Like, I love this kid. I think he is going to be a tremendous football player for this team. And yeah, he should have had our first interception and it was called back over a phantom penalty. If I'm coaching him up, the coaches do exactly that, because 9 times out of 10, that call's not coming against you. It's just angle, right? Like that the official saw it. I mean, Jesus, Travis Hunter didn't even put his hands up asking for the flag, like.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, but like I thought the defense, Steph, honestly, given all that we're talking about, the defense is the reason this was still even a game at the end.
That's a silver lining, right?
Yep,
I mean, yeah. In that case, let's get to more silver linings if we can find them for this week's game. 49K Player of the Week nominees. I'll let you go first, Weston, for a nominee.
I'm not going to take the obvious one.
There's an obvious one?
There is an obvious one, in my opinion. There's definitively an obvious one. I'm going to say Jake Tonjes. I want to put out here, and I'm reaching because I'm trying to give the offense some love in this moment, but it does very much feel like this is a hidden gem that they have found from their practice squad and through everything that I think he's a better blocker right now than Farrell is, if I'm being honest. And he's clearly comfortable in the pass game. I'm actually insanely excited to see him and George Kittle on the field at the same time, because I think that's the look you're going to get. I think that's the look that you're going to get going forward. And if the offensive line is still shaky, every quarterback's safety blanket's a tight end. It's going to be nice to have 2 of them that feel like they're really comfortable with the ball in their hand. I really like what he looks like after the catch. Like he gets north, he moves, he's a big body, he's not going to go down easily. I just think he fits.
Yeah, it looks natural. Looks natural for him.
Yeah, and he finds the end zone for the second time so far this season, which means he's got more success than anybody else on this freaking football team finding the end zone right now.
It's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah, if you want to give love to the offense, I mean, Jake Tonjes is definitely not a bad nomination there. Definitely has contributed as best he can. He had 3 catches for 58 yards, including the touchdown. So he's been a reliable target, through the first few weeks of the season. He's not getting the ball that much, but when he does, I mean, good things have happened. So we'll take that.
Honestly, I fully expect him to be a big part of the scheme on Thursday. Short week.
Yeah.
Not super banged up.
I wouldn't hate it.
Or has to be a part of it.
They need someone, right?
Yeah. What do you got to lose right now? You know what I mean? Like you got to throw a curveball here.
You got Pearsall. You got Jennings, banged up.
Yeah.
Might just be the Tonjes show out of necessity.
Jake Tonjes wins a conference game.
Do it.
Or division game.
All right. Well, I know that who I have is not going to overlap with anyone you have, because you kind of crapped on my player a little bit. That's Darrell Luter. I thought he actually did pretty good, and here's why: because I give credit to players who are thrust into starting roles. That's always scary. And going into this game, Bernardo Green obviously not available, so Darrell Luter is going into a secondary that's already been tested quite a bit through the first 3 weeks. You had to have figured that the Jags were going to attack this young secondary, right? Yep. That's a scary thought, especially with no Nick Bosa. You knew Trevor Lawrence was going to have extra time to throw. So I was like, okay, this is bad. And we have a backup corner, out there. But he actually surprised me, because we didn't see any negative plays from him in a game where you would have thought that Jags would have spammed the hell out of whoever Darrell Luter was targeting. I'll tell you what, though, he was targeted twice, allowed just one catch for 11 yards against Brian Thomas Jr. And PFF had him listed as the 49ers' highest graded run defender on Sunday as well. So that counts for something. I'm not saying he's better than Renardo Green. I think Green was missed out there as well. But Darrell Luter, I think, filled in pretty admirably in his place, all things considered. And look, if this was any other week, Weston, I don't think I'd be, given a nomination to Darrell Luter, to be fair. But, in a loss and you're basically finding a bright spot is like pulling teeth. I felt like Darrell Luter deserves some love.
Look, this is awkward.
I know, it's like I think it's like the first time you can't even agree at all.
I know, but we're not disagreeing. I think, look, he did nothing egregious for sure. So I think part of this is comparison to a bar of expectation for what you might have saw, considering he was out there. I do believe in my hearts of hearts that a lot of that was schematic, making sure that he was protected. I don't want to say at all costs in multiple scenarios. But look, he definitely didn't give up a home run ball like I thought was like, I mean, anytime I saw why am I drawing a blank on his name, number 7 outside with him, I was like, here we go. Like this is gonna be a deep ball. I think they were smart, scheme, took it away. And yes, I do think there were people who had a worse game on the defensive side of the ball than Luter did. It's fair. It's fair. I think you're reaching just like I was reaching on Tonjes a little bit.
Yeah. We wanted to switch it up because it was almost like if we don't mention these guys now, when will?
Yeah, when are you ever going to? Except Thursday night. Mark my word. We'll be talking about Jake Tonjes on Monday.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so that's your guy.
Yeah, and that's it. Like I couldn't even think of anyone else. Like I thought about squeezing someone else in there, but I'll let you.
I'm a little shocked. I thought once again Fred Warner.
Yeah, that's the guy. I was like
best linebacker in football. I know it's a little controversial. He dove over the pile at the end of the game to Trevor Lawrence. I don't care. I love it. I love every second of that. There was 1 minute and 15 seconds left on the clock, and he wasn't kneeling. He was like pausing and taking his time. Like this is a 1-possession freaking football game. Like that's just who Fred is. And you take that away from Fred, you take everything away from Fred. And look, Fred's he's an all-pro person too. I'm sure at this point he's probably already exchanged a message with Lawrence, like, my bad, guy. Like, I'm just trying to win a football game, like that sort of thing. But he's that fire. Johnny on the spot. Gosh, those interceptions will come, but he had multiple moments, punched the ball out, which would have been really opportune if we could have jumped on that football that just kind of got like hidden behind the Jaguars offensive player and you couldn't see it. Brian Thomas. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name before. Sorry, it just came to me. But in any case, I thought Fred, as always.
Yeah, no, he was the one that I was thinking of putting in here. And so I was like, I'm sure Weston will nominate him because again, we're so limited on options. But yeah, I mean, I think the reason that I had a hard time just letting a linebacker run away with a nomination here, while D. Winters and Fred Warner continue to play well, is like Travis Etienne had 123 rushing yards. Like that, I just couldn't get over that. And while the defense as a whole did come together, and as I said, I do think they gave the offense a lot of chances, it felt like much more of a collective effort from the defense this week than, one player really doing all of the work, and I only nominated Darrell Luter because not really because he did anything spectacular as far as his play. It was more so just because he wasn't targeted and that's usually a good thing for corners. But I love the Warner nomination. So we got 3 names. We're like, yeah, I don't know who takes this, Weston, but I also don't know how many people we have on live because again, there's a Monday Night Football game happening right now, so we're competing
You
with
know
that.
what, Steph? I was thinking about this, like, timing of the show, squeezing between the 2 Monday Night Football games, coming off a loss where like Twitter is just. Online 49er world, social media 49er world is like in turmoil after a loss here. So I'm not surprised nobody wants to really rehash and relive what we went through just yesterday. But guys, when you come back and watch this, the team, as of when you watch this video, is still 3-1, is still sitting on top of the NFC West. If you're going to lose a game, it's always good to lose them out of conference. That's what happened here. And we could talk. I don't believe they fell victim to the trap game, but you can align so many things here to say that, like, this felt like it was probably going to be the unexpected L before we even got there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be tougher than the previous couple of games. As Christian McCaffrey said, he had a pretty good quote this week, right? That he said he's never been on an undefeated team. My first thought was, well, of course you haven't. You came from the Panthers, my guy. But the second thought was, yeah, I mean, you're right. Like no team, it's happened before, right? The undefeated seasons, but it's very, 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 very few and far between to where that's really not that anyone's expectation. So you drop one game, your world isn't falling apart as a player like it is for us fans. Like the sky is falling for us, but I could see a scenario in which, next week we're like, remember when we were freaking out? So that sometimes happens, and hopefully that's the case for this 2025 team, because they have given me some hope, that I think the 2024 team failed to give me, right? Like this team does have some life. It has some fight in them. That's something that we missed. So, and we saw it. We saw it in this game. They have some fight. So that's a good takeaway from this one. But Weston, who are you voting for here?
Jake Tonjes.
Well, it's not who
are you voting for? And then we might have to phone in a friend for the tiebreaker.
At this point, I'm just gonna vote for Jake Tonjes.
He did it. Steph, I think the truth is like, it's 49er fans, Steph's listeners, it's okay. Like, we might have a little slide here. We might. But we're figuring things out. And remember what the season was always about. The biggest disservice the 49ers did for themselves was winning the first 3 freaking games. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you set the wrong expectations, guy. You got to figure that out,
Absolutely. I have thought about that. I was like, had them not given us hope in like the first 3 games, I'd have just been like, hey, like this is exactly what I expected from this team.
Totally.
They're figuring it out. You got a very young defense. You got a lot of injuries. So,
but the excuses that we could make to justify if they were 1-3 or 2-2 at this point are still the same excuses that exist, but they're 3-1. So like, hey, look around the NFL. A lot of teams, look at the Baltimore Ravens, right? And they're all pro, all world, Lamar Jackson, like, you know what I mean? Like it's been a struggle for a few teams to get things going. This is the NFL. It will all balance out. It will balance out in a few weeks. And good news for us is like post division game, all bets are off, right? Like I don't care who's injured. I don't care what's what. Division games are scrappy. Like, they're scrappy. They're a different beast. And then you get a nice 10, 11-day reprieve before your next game. That could be very much what the doctor ordered for this football team.
Yeah, mini bye week. So yeah, a lot hinges on this game, of course. I know it's early in the season. I know the 49ers are 3-1, but it is a divisional game after all, and both teams are 3-1 right now. So that means they're playing for first place in the NFC West. So it's going to be a good one. Plan to go to that game. So as far as my show, I do plan to still do my show with Wayne on Thursday, and then I'll see if I could get a post game in after the game, maybe later that night. But make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when I go live, not just Weston's, but mine as well. Make sure you like this video. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. Again, appreciate all of you that tuned in live. You guys have fun watching the rest of the Monday Night Football games. But for now, peace.